Okay, now that we've picked up on the calculator setup, let's go back to how the game of Battleship wasn't played on paper, will also not be played on a calculator. Or perhaps it will as you try to learn to actually manage not only discrete data, which would be things like points, but also linear data, which would be things like y equals mx plus b. So remembering we had gone through the standard set of steps, we turn the calculator on. I'm going to hit clear here. Remember, we wanted to ask it a question we know the answer to. Not always important, you're just getting used to things, however. Oh, now in this case you want to remember the mode is going to be the thing that changes a lot. Mostly what you're trying to do is making sure that you are keeping track of whether it's radians or degrees, because you might not quite understand yet how those numbers might come back and bite you. So here, function parameter, polar, and sequence, there's lots of stuff here. Realistically, however, what we want to do is then put in a couple of lines you know the answer to. If we want, in this case, we said y equals x, and y equals minus x, and second quit, and then also some data, which we can do by stat, edit, and this point you see I'm not going to put in 4 points because I have a lot of points laid in here, and you'll see these will be laid out in a coordinate system. What you have to realize is that when you have paired lists like L1, L2, or in fact in this case L3, L4, those are the ones that need to be the same length. In this case we will be using L1, L2 for our ships, L3, L4 for what we're shooting at. The other part that's going to be really important is to learn to start looking at the data, and you do that, that's stored for graphing, and that's in the variable in the window here. It'll show you what the x-max is, x-min. Oop, I'm going to go back here and remember delete. I want a second quit out of here. I did that from the wrong spot. So if I go to variables, window, x minimum, it shows me I've got that set to -9, and then x-max, variables, window, x-max, and that's set to +9. When we go to variables, window, y-min, you're going to see it's different. Now that's because if you think about the screen here, there is actually a difference in the width and the height of the screen. So the way you generally go about making sure that stays square is no matter what you plug in, you go back to here zoom and you go to zoom square, and that's a really important one. Alright, invalid dimension, you see this error will come up a lot. That's because when you go to stat, you hit second quit, and you go to stat, edit. If you look there, I did not finish that out. My lists were the wrong length. That error comes up a lot, so that's one we always want to check. At this point now, we hit the graph button, and we see our lines are shown, and we've got some ships, as I had talked about. Later on, when you go to the stat plot here, you realize you can have different ones on and off and different ways to show them. But as a rule, you're very often just doing stat plots or line plots. In this case, we can go ahead, if you remember, going to there and hit enter. You can go here and hit enter. And then finally, what you really want to get, if you're going to be starting to realize how coordinate systems can and should work, you want to sometimes be able to step away from the axes, because in many ways they're special, but in many other ways they are not. And you do that by going second to format, and you can turn the grid off. You can turn the axes off. And now when you hit graph, you just see your ship, and you do not see the origin per se. Remember, we're using and placing the origin as we wish, but there is nothing essentially special about it. It's something that you often get to pick in some problems in real life. However, we also are going to start in this class by 0, 0, an infinite horizontal number line, which we call x, and an infinite vertical coordinate system, which we call y. So hopefully that helps, and we can somehow in the next interspace of the next few days get some Battleship going, so we can realize that these games can be actually more than simple review of what you might have been learning over time over the last 10 years. Thanks for listening.